Hey guys, in this episode I'm going to be fitting recovery points. So I've got them here on the toolbox behind me. Just going to give them a quick paint. So I'm going to show you how to fit Medicar recovery points, and I'm just going to go over why I chose Medicar recovery points. So the main issue with recovery points is how they integrate with other parts of your build, like bash plates and bull bar. So to fit these, you'll need your front wheels off. You'll have to jack the car up. I'm not going to go through both sides, I'll just show you one side. And if there's any differences between each side, I'll just quickly show it. With these recovery points, you do need to drill a hole in your chassis. You need to drill some drill bits up to 13mm to fit a 12mm bolt. All the bolts are supplied with captive nuts. Once you've drilled that hole, you definitely want to file it and paint it to prevent any rust. So I might do this over the course of a few days, because I might drill and paint everything today, try to get 2 coats on today, and then come back tomorrow and fit it when everything's 100% dry. So here's the kit. Comes with bolts, captive nuts, your 2 plates, and these are spacers, I believe. So I'm just going to weigh this as it is, and then I'll weigh whatever I don't use at the end, and the difference will be what we've installed on the car. And it also comes with a set of instructions. So there we have it, 7.459 or 7.46. Here are those recovery points. I've just got them laid out on this toolbox with a bunch of cardboard laid under itself, because I'm just going to give them a spray paint. So I'm going to clean it first. I'm not going to be too thorough with this because I don't really care if the paint comes off, but I'm going to clean it with isopropyl alcohol and these paper towels. After that, I'm just going to lay them out, spray a coat of paint, let it dry, and I'll come and spray a second coat. There is no reason to paint these. You don't have to paint them. You can install them as they are. I'm just painting them so they stand out a little bit. It's either going to look really shit or it'll look okay, but it's only one way to find out. So I am going to paint both sides of these, but just so you know, only one face will be visible. The other face comes with spacers that go in between your chassis and the plate. This side won't really be visible because the chassis will be hiding everything above there. You might see a little bit of this on one side, but on the other side you won't, because you have your factory tie down point. I'm going to leave these stuck on. They're stuck on with double-sided tape. I'll leave them there. This part isn't going to be visible anyway, so I'm not too concerned with what it looks like. Spraying with isopropyl alcohol just to get rid of the oily residue. I'll just briefly go through why I got the Medicar recovery points. The reason being is that they follow this form here. This isn't a recovery point, this is a factory tie down point. Your car might have one on either side. I've only got on the front left. It follows this form so you don't lose any clearance. It's up and out of the way. The ARB recovery point, for example, is just horrible. It's right in the middle of the car, central. It would be a massive pain in the ass to try and get anything attached to it if you were stuck in anything. The other one I see that would work with these bash plates is the Roadsafe. They stick down so far, it looks like you're going to plough the ground out as you drive along. I've gone with Medicar. So I'll just take this splash guard off because we'll be using these 2 holes, and we'll be drilling a 3rd hole in the middle here. This hole over here, this is where we slide our captive nuts in. Now when you drill your 3rd hole, you only drill through this outside side of the chassis. You drill it out to 13mm, and that's because the bolt going inside is a 12mm bolt. You want to give it a file to clean it out, give it a coat of paint, let it dry, give it another coat of paint. Just prevent any rust forming in this part of the chassis. But to take these off, you just got your Phillips head clips that you screw out and then pop out. I've just tucked that splash guard out of the way. These will get slid in this hole of the chassis, and then they'll line up with your hole here, the new hole that you're going to drill, and the hole up here. Oh guys, that's 1 coat of red. I'm going to do another coat, but I just wanted to get this up and marked so I can drill and paint this so everything dries at the same time. And I'll do 2 coats on the back as well, even though you can't really see it. Just have a look at how this sits. That's essentially it there. It goes no lower than that tie down point that was there before. We've got spacers in between the chassis and the plate. So I'm just going to take these off so I can mark up that hole correctly. So you want to mark this up, you can just punch in the center, or you can mark it first and then punch it. We've marked that hole. I'm going to drill this out to 13mm. I'm going to punch it so it's nice and centre and it doesn't drift. These holes are quite a bit larger than they need to be, so you've got a bit of wiggle room here to move this around. Just make sure you don't go too high. This will prevent you from going any higher. now the paint's dried. I've done 3 coats on the outside, 2 coats on the inside. I've done 3 coats on the chassis. So now we're just gonna line the bolts up with the captive nuts and we'll put it in. So before you start, drive your bolts through your captive nuts just to clean the thread out in the captive nuts. Some of them are quite stiff to get through the first time. You don't want to be trying to get that through and try to line it up at the same time. You want the thread to be clean so it goes in smoothly. You're starting from the hole furthest to the front and then we'll work our way back. Everything will get done at 86 Newton meters. The instructions don't mention putting Loctite on, but I'm going to put Loctite on. Now Loctite as a liquid is a thread lubricant, so you can drop your torque settings 10-15% if you wanted to. Well, technically this does affect the torque applied with Loctite on the threads because it's a lubricant. Generally speaking, you don't drop your torque settings for Loctite, you just keep it the same, unless you're working on something very sensitive, aluminium threads and plastics and stuff like that. So I'm just going to do them with Loctite to 86. Driven the bolts through on all of them so I know the threads are clean. Feed them in through here. Put a little kink in your wire here and then you can use that to angle the captive nut up and down. That first one is a pain in the ass because you need to hold the bracket up. You can probably see the paintwork's kind of been ruined already. You could clamp it to this, but I don't have this on the other side. I just held it up with my knees. So I put the bolt in without the bracket. And then I bent this wire into a position so the captive nut was flat and I just had to bend this around to raise it, but it was flat against here so it was easy to thread in. And this is why you definitely want to put your bolts through the captive nuts before you start doing this because you want them to thread straight in. You see the paintwork's pretty trashy already. Even though I left it to dry overnight, it's sort of peeled off in pieces. I'm not too worried about what it looks like. I have a feeling this Bunnings spray paint's just going to come off after a bit of sand anyway. So with the second hole, tighten up the first bolt, just enough to pinch it in place, just so you can line up your captive nut and then slide that bolt through. If this is loose, this will drop down and you'll be trying to wrestle both things at once. So tighten this up just for now, get this in, get that in, and then you can rearrange your levels and torque them up afterwards. All right, so we've got 3 bolts in. Just get it set to where you want it, nip them all up. We'll come back through with a torque wrench at 86. 18mm socket, 86 Newton meters. I'm not going to bother repainting it because I didn't do a good enough job priming it anyway. Hopefully this never has to come off, but if you want, you can leave a little bit of length on here just in case you think you might have to take these off because you need to get the captive nuts back on. So I'm just bending these over. I'm going to try to push them into the chassis. I just bent them over so hopefully this edge doesn't scratch the paint on the inside. Now we have the rounded edge. So now I've pushed them back in. Worst case scenario, I can fish them back out if I have to redo these captive nuts for whatever reason, if these have to come off. I've bent them over just so there's no sharp edge, making little scratches in there. It should be a nice round little crook shape. And that's it, we'll just go do the other side now and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So that's it, that's the other side done. Down on the passenger side, you've got the factory tie down point on the inside. This one does not have that factory tie down point. It's just the recovery point now. Spaces in between the plate and the chassis. And we just got that splash guard back in, but the recovery point covers up one of the holes. So just tucked that in behind the recovery point. Got a spare clip now. And we just put the one clip in, same as the other side. Works well with bash plates, it sits outside the bash plates. The paint job probably won't last, given the fact that parts of it are flaking already, but we'll see how we go. Okay, we're nearly done now, but as you know, the job's not done until you've cleaned up. All right, so now that's done, we've got the wheels on. They are firm. We're going to drop the car and then we're going to torque it. The studs on this are 103 Newton meters and you want to go in a bit of a crisscross pattern. Okay, so here we have the remains of the box, the things that we didn't use, 274 grams. So now we have the final weight. So the recovery points are on, pretty happy with it. Not happy with my paint job, but the rest of it's pretty good. You don't lose any ground clearance. Your car might have factory tie down points on both sides. Doesn't really make a difference either way, but just so you know. But now I've got recovery points on the front. Just buy some equaliser straps and some snatch straps. Other people will be able to assist me if I get myself stuck. For the rear of the car, I don't have anything at the moment, but you can buy a tow ball replacement hitch that's made for recoveries, because obviously you can't use your tow ball. So I might buy one of them and just carry it in the car in case I need to do a rear recovery. Now, it is a massive pain in the ass trying to get that first bolt in. It'll be easier with 2 people. You sort of have to set it with the wire, get a feel for when it's going to be lined up with a hole, and hope it threads. So you really want to clean out the thread before you start. The next 2 holes are pretty easy after that. I can't imagine these Medicar recovery points interfering with any bash plates. Because of where they sit, any bash plates would have to account for those factory tow points. So I can't imagine these interfering with any. Now, they mount in a similar position to the Roadsafe ones, but the difference is they don't stick out 100mm past the recovery point. So they're up higher off the ground, and I think they look better as well because they don't look like they're about to plough the ground. Off the top of my head, I think they're rated to 10 tonne. So they look better, they're lower profile, they work with any bash plate, and they're cheaper than a lot of the alternatives as well. So to be honest, I can't see why you would go with an alternative. Yet to be tested, obviously, because I've just mounted them, but so far pretty happy with them. Yeah. Where's my lid? There it is. Alright guys, so I finished the paint. It's sort of like a glossy red colour. What have you got? It's brilliant. What do you call it? It's called Recovery Red. Yes, very good. What inspired you to paint it like this? Because red is the fastest colour. Okay. That's a good reason. So much passion. 3 coats. Aggression. Yeah, it's all there. Love. Anger. So these are called side cutters. Don't ask why. I think we're done.